Hello everybody, welcome back to the Old Warlock. My name's Alex.
I'm Jim.
And today we're going to be talking about
Pelinore.
Pelinore.
Pelinore. Something that actually dates back a little bit. And those of you who are regular viewers of the channel,
Welcome back.
Welcome back, number one, yes. But you also know that I'm really interested in the history, the earlier history of Dungeons and Dragons. And probably you are too, if you're a return visitor.
If you're here, yeah.
Exactly. But what I wanted, I've been reading, I spent a lot of time reading through the Dragon magazine, as you know. But at the same time, I've been reading some RPG magazines that were published in the United Kingdom back in the 1980s. And the one I've been looking at is called Imagine Magazine. And I think that its total name was Imagine: Adventure Gaming Magazine. But it's just generally known as Imagine. And Imagine was first published in 1983, and it was TSR's attempt, Tactical Studies Rules, the company that created Dungeons and Dragons, it was their attempt at getting into the United Kingdom RPG magazine market. So this was their goal with publishing Imagine Magazine. So it had a direct link to TSR and Dungeons and Dragons. In fact, it's basically its entire focus was advanced Dungeons and Dragons. Now, it first came out in 1983, and unfortunately, as far as I'm concerned, it only ran until 1985. There were a total of 30 issues, and I think they had there was one like special issue tossed in there somewhere, so I guess a total of 31 issues. But to me, it was a fantastic magazine, and we'll be talking more about it probably on the podcast. We might be going into some more details that came out of Imagine Magazine. And in fact, I think on one of the podcasts we did talk about some monsters that came out of Imagine. I think it was Imagine Magazine that the monsters were drawn from. But anyway,
but hey, go listen to the podcast.
True, that's a good point. But we'll be going back to talk some more about Imagine Magazine in the future. But today, I just really wanted to talk about something that Imagine Magazine created, or the staff at Imagine Magazine created, and it's called the World of Pelinore. Pelinore. But Pelinore is, to me, it's really it's a very interesting creation for its time. And there are other things like this going on in various places around the world, but to me, this was one of the more interesting attempts at world building with fan contribution. Now, for those of you who have seen we have a video out on Fantasy Worlds magazine. It was published in Batesville, Ohio, I believe. Mm-hmm. And that to me was probably, I still think that that's one of the quintessential attempts at bringing people into your attempt at creating a world. And if you're interested in that, go look at our Fantasy Worlds magazine video.
Yes. Very good video.
It is, and we'll have more information about Fantasy Worlds, hopefully, because someone got in touch with us regarding that video, and they were directly linked to the things that we were talking about. So we'll be investigating that further. But Imagine Magazine, with this World of Pelinore, was following the same kind of thought train that Fantasy World magazine was trying to pursue, in that they wanted to get the public to have input into the world and help them create a fantasy setting that anybody could use either in their campaign or bits and pieces, or they could use bits and pieces from Pelinore in their campaign however they liked. But they really wanted to have this be supported by the readers of Imagine Magazine. So we're going to take a look and see whether or not that was something that they managed to work out.
That we are. Also, this video, not sponsored by Perrier.
Not at all.
No. Hi, welcome back to our discussion about Pelinore from Imagine Magazine. Jim?
Okay, so...
It's not my coffee.
It's my coffee, so... Anyway.
But you can get these cups from the Old Warlock Spreadshirt shop if you're interested.
Okay, are you done with the shameless promotion?
Yeah, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Okay, I apologize for him. Where was I? Pelinore out of Imagine Magazine. I want to read just a few things from some of the introductory paragraphs that Imagine Magazine staff created to try and entice people to contribute to Pelinore. Let me just give you what they were saying back in 1983. A new world. Pelinore is a new world for brave adventurers, or craven swine, if you play that way, to use as a campaign background. It includes most of the AD&D and D&D modules so far published in Imagine Magazine, and it will provide forward links into some of the modules, brief encounters, and other game articles that are yet to come. So what they were doing, starting in issue 16, that's when they decided to start trying to develop Pelinore. Let me continue. Pelinore is ready for what you want it to make of it. Mini modules, brief encounters, single buildings within a city, town, village, and articles on how to run a wizard's guild, court etiquette, castle building, histories of the world, to name but a few. The framework of the world is going to be as flexible as possible. Pelinore is going to grow and develop over the years and achieve much more solidity as a result. So what they were attempting to do here is, number one, get people excited for this new creation for Imagine Magazine. That way, if you've got these things being published, you're going to go back and buy the next issue of Imagine Magazine to see what happens in this world of Pelinore. Yeah, exactly. One thing, then they have another section in here, it's called Pelinore, a Writer's Guide. One thing quickly becomes clear when you start designing a world. That's a lot of work. That's where you come in, the Imagine Magazine reader. If you feel you could add something to this project, then send it in, as you already do with ordinary submissions, and we'll look it over. We're sure many of you have plenty of ideas of your own, but for now, try thinking along the following lines. So then they give some suggestions as to what they're looking for in terms of public involvement in the development of Pelinore. Pelinore is a land of adventure. We are always on the lookout for good scenarios, and with Pelinore around, we will need even more. Then they talk about something called the City League, which is more or less the main adventuring area of Pelinore at this early stage. The City League, virtually a world within a world, all of that, of course, means detailed descriptions for DMs to help them run the city in their campaigns. If you don't want to write a complete module, then how about a single building? The list given on this page shows you some of the possibilities, but we can only scratch the surface. The more writers who contribute, the more alive the City League will be. Then they talk about the guilds. Pelinore's major institutions need properly defining. All sorts of guilds, for anybody from wizards and thieves to butchers, bakers, and candlestick makers, I like the way they did that,
it's good.
Could provide employment for brave adventurers or powerful opposition to such freebooters. It's up to you. So this is really, from the very beginning, they were hoping that this was going to be a product of their readers, as well as the staff themselves. And they did a pretty darn good job. The question that I have, and I'm hoping, and I've done a lot of research on this trying to find out, because I'm the geeky guy who does that kind of thing. I'm not exactly sure how successful they were at getting public input. I know that they had some.
But the level to which people were sending things in,
I just don't know. Yeah. Right? I just don't know about it. But I'm going to go through some of this. I can't go through all of it because the document that I'm looking at is a compilation of all of Pelinore.
So it's big.
It is. It's 100 and some pages long. I'm just going to touch on some of the things that they were doing that I think were really cool.
Yeah.
And to be honest, and I will throw some of the maps and some of those things up on the screen as we go, because I think that you might find them interesting as well. But I just want to touch on some of the things that they did that I'm actually going to be incorporating into my world. In fact, I have incorporated some of it into my campaign at this point. There will be more because I really, really like this 1983 to 1985 creation by Imagine Magazine. One of the things, they start off by talking about the City League, and they introduce a new non-player character class called the Freeman or the Free Woman. They go on to say, cities are not just populated by a mixture of exotic adventurers and thousands of zero-level fighters. There will be many representatives of the adventurous classes, and there will also be social also-rans, the lowlifes, but a great many of the people will be free men and free women, representing merchants, business people, functionaries, clerks, bankers, and many other mundane trades. In order to allow these people a little more depth in this campaign, we suggest that DMs make use of the Freeman character class hereafter detailed. Note that this is not intended to be a class available to player characters, although I don't know why not.
I think you could. I think you should be able to.
Note that this, and after a quick look, after a quick look at the character class, very few of your players will probably want to do this. But I think that that's selling this class short.
Yeah.
But let's give a quick look at some of the details. And this is probably what they're talking about. That it's not a very powerful character, but again, if you role played it right, you could make this a powerful character. Yeah. Hit dice type. All they have is 1d6 of hit points. The spell ability, there's none. Level limit, none. They can go up in level, and I'll get to that in a second. They can wear any armor, but it's rarely worn in town, which to me is appropriate.
Yeah.
They can occasionally use a shield. They can only use one weapon. And they can use poisons and oils and things like that. But this is the interesting part to me of this new non-player character class. The level of a freeman or free woman is not determined by experience points, but by a combination of their wealth, age, and influence. A 10th level freeman and free woman become members of the nobility. Thus, a simple bureaucratic flunky would be freeman level 1, a wealthy trader, freeman level 5, a courtier, freeman level 8, and so on. So that's, to me, is an interesting thing, that you're not... It's not that you're looking at these freeman characters to become more powerful physically, or their ability to deal out damage or to escape damage during combat by a reflection of hit points. This is simply a reflection of their influence, and that, to me, is a really neat thing.
I think that would be a major challenge. Not necessarily a challenge, but it would be a big shift for, I think, a lot of people who play Dungeons and Dragons, because it's, you're not necessarily having these big adventures where you go out into the mountains and slay dragons and things like that. But I think that if you're creative with it, there's still a lot of ways that you could have a lot of fun playing that character.
I think so too.
Like my primary character in your world, who's still alive somehow.
As far as he knows.
Yeah. He started off by running it
was a glorified food cart.
Yeah, it was a food truck, basically.
Yeah.
Taking a food truck around to different towns with my brother and with other people, with like the NPCs that we had, and just selling food to people. And that was a lot of fun. It was,
well, and it was.
Yeah.
And, we've talked about it once long ago on some of these videos, but that, I think, was an excellent introduction to you and your brother about what role-playing is all about.
yes.
And it was good from that standpoint, but it also allowed no end of variation in terms of things that I could throw at them for an adventure. So, they had to go and find the food, and then they had, we've mentioned it on the channel before, there was a cook that worked for them, a non-player character.
Works.
Sorry.
Present tense.
There was a cook that works for them who was actually being sought by the basically underworld folks. And so they had to find ways to protect him and drive away the underworld folks. So that this kind of an approach to non-player characters, or even player characters, I think it's selling it short when it says that players would not want to do that.
And if you want to improve at your role-playing ability, put yourself into different and uncomfortable situations with your characters, because that's the only way you're going to get better at it.
Exactly.
If you're doing something that isn't you in reality.
Right.
That you push your boundaries of what you're able to creatively do in the character you portray.
What you're able to think about imaginatively.
Yes.
Imaginatively.
Yeah.
I think that's very important. Anyway, we'll move on here. I'm not, again, like I said, not going to try and do all of this. There were just a couple of interesting things that I wanted to point out about Pelinore. There's a place in Pelinore called Westmead Square. Now, I don't know. I have a feeling that this was developed by staff. I don't see a name attached to it, so I'm assuming it's staff. If anybody worked at Imagine Magazine who was by some quirk of strange chance, if you get the chance to see this and you can contact us, we would be like, because this is like original D&D stuff.
We'd make that sound.
I would. I actually would.
Yeah?
I would. Yeah, it would be so exciting. I know that would be what it is.
We just lost half our viewers right there.
No, well, but the ones that are remaining, we're glad you're here. Anyway, this is Westmead Square, W-E-S-T-M-E-E-T Square. And what they've done is they've put in some non-player characters, and that's one of the things that they talk about, is that with each section of Pelinore that they develop, they want to have the major NPCs at the very beginning of the descriptions. First one, I'll just read this guy. Androgenes Metz. He is a thief that is located in Westmead Square. It gives his statistics. So strength of 12, intelligence 12, wisdom 7, dexterity 17, constitution of 8, charisma of 6. But then it gives you other options that you can tick off if you want to include these side characteristics as part of Androgenes Metz in your campaign. It gives you these options. He's filthy, wears smelly leathers, and wears an unnecessary eye patch. I think that's great. The second one, he sells matches, hankies, and gewgaws. Gewgaws? Gewgaws? I've never understood how to pronounce that word. Someone write in and tell us how to pronounce
Somebody
that.
British write in and tell us how,
Gewgaws?
I'm not sure.
I think it's gewgaws. Anyway, he sells matches, hankies, gewgaws at street corners seeking victims. You could also choose to have him be dishonest, shifty, answers to the nickname Phew, P-H-E-W. And you can also have him be a person who knows members of the local thieves guild and probably an assassin or two. So I like the fact that they're giving you the chance
You can customize it yourself.
Exactly. You can customize these. But then within Westmead Square, they list a lot of the buildings. So I'll throw that up on the screen so that you can see that map. And then they talk about, okay, one of the buildings there is called the Apothecary. And it describes who works there. It describes what kind of things they sell. And it's got a really nice map. It looks to me like a hand-drawn map. It's got to be a hand-drawn map. So that if you want to have your adventurers go to the Apothecary, you've got the map already sitting there ready to go. And it's also got a side view, which I love because it gives you an idea of the elevation of the house, not just a top-down view. There is the Traveler's Shrine in that area. There is the Black Pig Public House. And again, it's got the people who work there. It's got the kind of things that happen at the Black Pig Public House. This is one of my favorites here. I'll throw this map up. This is the Westmead Square Inn. It's the Ford Inn. And it's a big building. It's got all kinds of interesting things. And this, to me, looks like a lot of and I'm one of those geeky people who has looked at medieval plans for medieval inns. This is really reflective of that. I wonder why it was made in the UK, but
yeah, shocking.
But to me, this is really great. And again, this side view,
that is
to
cool.
me is just great because you could throw that up to people and give them a good.
You can envision exactly what was intended when it was put together.
There you go.
We're not necessarily always all for that.
No, we do like to do a lot of theater of mind.
But in the instance of this, where it was created by other people, having the intended image is maybe a good thing sometimes.
I agree.
Yeah.
100%. Something else in Pelinore is called an area called the Wind, and this is all in the City League.
I read it as the Wind.
The Wind. Nutty American here. One of the things that we stayed at Old Tollbooth Wind in Edinburgh the last time we were there. So
the last time we were there. Okay, we go there often.
Okay, I've been there.
I've
been there several times. He's only been there once, but it was the last time that we went. We stayed in a place called Old Tollbooth Wind.
It was pretty cool. If there's anybody watching from Old Tollbooth Wind, let us know.
Or
Edinburgh.
Edinburgh.
That would actually be really cool.
But actually, we do have some people who watch from Edinburgh. We do.
From Edinburgh?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Anyway,
sorry, guys.
It's called the Wind. We just get carried away. The Wind. There's an interesting thing there called the Magic Users School. I'll read the description that they have, a little bit of the description they have of that. The Magic Users School is the ironic result of the ambition of 4 men brought to fruition by the bitter disappointment of 1. Malachite Burwright, Fiorentanus, Dispor the True, and Porcena Mays were friends at a huge magical academy within the city who wanted to set up their own. Tragedy struck when Malachite lost his right arm in an accident, ending his career. The tragedy was allayed when he inherited a swampy piece of land behind his family's mill, on which he built a tower for his friends to use. The local people look on the school with much awe and pride since it brings much wealth into the district. Anyone harming the place would bring the whole neighborhood down around their ears. Again, great setting. There's not much more to this. There's another about twice as long of a description. But then the rest of it is kind of left up to you, how you want to work it in.
There's some vague background.
Yep.
But it's still...
But it's enough.
It's just, that little spark that you need that you can then go from there.
Right.
And do whatever you want to. You can still make your own characters from it. This is just the initial beginning.
Right. And we've talked about that as well with some of the publishers, the current day publishers that we like. where they don't try to outline every last stinking detail, where they leave enough detail to get you going and give you and fire your imagination, but they let you figure out the rest of it.
And it's enough that you can change things that you don't like as well. So you can, if you wanted Malachite to be somewhere else, you could put Malachite somewhere else and it wouldn't be a big deal because there isn't that deeply intertwined, complicated story.
That if you remove him, the whole thing collapses.
Yeah, that's going to screw everything up.
Right.
You still have a lot of freedom.
Right. Anyway, they go on to talk about the major characters. Again, this would be Malachite Burrite and Firentanus, Dispor the True, and Porcena Maze. So they give you just the detail that you need. But they also go into law and order and the administration of the area. And so they're talking about, this is by Paul Cockburn, and Paul Cockburn was the assistant editor at Imagine Magazine. And he seems to have had an awful lot to do with this because, and I'm going to do a side note here, and it was TSR, I believe, that shut down Imagine Magazine after 31 issues. Now, the reasons behind that, I'm not exactly sure. I don't know if they were trying to bring the Dragon over and make that the main TSR house organ, if you will. But I know that Paul Cockburn was I'm fairly certain that Paul Cockburn was the assistant editor of Imagine Magazine after it closed down. He took a lot of Pelinore and set up another magazine called Game Designers.
Called this.
Yeah, this thing. That. And then he continued to work with Pelinore and tried to keep it moving forward, but it only lasted for about 2 more years, and so that went from about mid-1985 to mid-1987, and then that shut down as well. So Pelinore never got its just desserts, as far as I'm concerned. But he talks about, anyway, Paul Cockburn had a lot to do with the development of Pelinore, and so he brings up the administration of peace in the City League, which is that part within Pelinore that they spent their early time developing first. And he talks about the different police forces, if you will. One of them is the district militia. Most of the policing is done by the hard-pressed men-at-arms of the district militia. And then he goes on to give a description of that. Number 2, the private condatas. Each of these bodies was raised originally under the authority of an ancient city bylaw that allows tax bills in excess of 5,000 gold pieces to be paid for by providing an additional police patrol. Now they are virtually private armies. Again, the detail of this is, to me, it's great.
Yeah, still just enough.
Right.
To get you going. But then you can specify that however you want to.
But then they throw in some really interesting other things, too, to kind of mix it up and give it that, that expected D&D flavor that at least I would have expected somebody to put in. One of the other policing orders is the Knights Ocular.
And where they got that idea.
And these guys are going into my campaign too. In fact, they're already there now. Yeah. This mysterious and powerful order has existed for almost as long as the city and is inextricably bound up in its affairs. It is an incredible organization. Its members are made up of an exotic mixture of classes, answerable to a master who is said to be of semi-divine origin. Further, despite their power and seemingly evil outlook, as far as can be gathered from the few texts in the public domain concerning them, they are tied to these different people, and they go on and on and on. But to me, they're that mysterious element of the city watch that you don't want to cross unless it's really necessary.
Like, if you've read the Bone books, there were the guards who worked in the city, but they were divided into 2 sects. You had the regular ones, and then you had the ones with the eyes on their foreheads.
Exactly.
This is going to make sense to, like, none of you.
No, I bet it makes sense to a lot of them.
But like, the ones, I think it was the ones with the eyes on their heads, those were, like, the sketchy ones.
Yes.
Those are the weird guys who had more magic going on. That's that.
That's the Knights Ocular. Yes.
It's the Knights Templar, but not in reality.
Yeah, right.
The ones that were in National Treasure.
Yes, there you go.
Yeah.
There you go. Good example. And there are a couple of other ones.
Cents.
It's much more. It's more than 2 cents.
3.
That's like 3. That's a nickel, right?
Yeah.
There are several others. I'll also mention the guild militia. Numerous guilds within the city operate militias for entirely selfish reasons, so you have to contend with those if you're going to be involved in nefarious dealings in the city of the City League in Pelinore. Go ahead.
I will say,
we've gone too far.
Yeah.
Anyway, I really didn't have that much else to say about it. I just wanted to give you a flavor of Pelinore, and if you get the chance, check online, because I know that there are some people who have put together compilations of this. I wish that I could make what I've come across and managed to get a hold of. I wish I could make this available to you guys, but there are copyright issues, and I don't want to be crossing crossing anybody on that. I believe that Pelinore, since it was originally TSR, I have to assume that copyright for Pelinore is now owned by Wizards of the Coast. I don't know for sure.
But we don't know that.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the fact that Paul Cockburn took a lot of Pelinore over to a new magazine that he started, maybe it doesn't belong to TSR. What I wish, though, is at the end of the day, this is the kind of thing that Wizards of the Coast would go back and make available, at least as a PDF or print on demand, because I think a lot of our viewers would really enjoy having this as something that they could make use of.
Yeah.
They go on to talk about the gods. That's part of the list. There are other things. There's a great thing that I love. It's called Monument Square. It's this decaying, falling apart area that at one point was extremely important. I believe this might have been made by a contributor by the name of Brian Garrett.
Yeah.
So some of these things, and it's excellent. But I guess one of the other things that I love about this is it gave an option to people who would never be able to publish something on their own to be creative and make their creations available to other people. Remember,
contribute in some small way.
Right, and remember, this is before Drive-Thru RPG. This is before any of these things, any of these dissemination vehicles that we have today were available. You just had to hope that you got your things published, and I think Pelinore went a long way toward trying to get that done.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to make you aware of Pelinore. I think it is a really neat thing.
It is very cool.
As I go through this, I may make some additional things available, maybe on our Instagram channel, just like images of some of the things I'm taking out of here. Hopefully nobody will turn us in and get us in trouble with Wizards of the Coast.
We don't make money off it, so it's okay.
No, that's true. Yeah, this is educational, so it's fair. It falls under fair use. So don't become an actress.
For the record, ignore him. That is not an official statement from the Old Warlock.
No. What? Oh. Anyway,
thanks for watching.
Thanks for stopping by. I appreciate. I got a bit long-winded on this, but as you regular viewers do, I know I always do when it's something that's cool D&D history.
So we hope you've enjoyed this bit of cool Dungeons and Dragons history, advanced Dungeons and Dragons history.
Yes.
And that's it. That's all we've really got.
That's all we've got.
Go listen to the podcast.
Yes.
Right now.
I think you'll enjoy it.
It's so good. You all are going to like it. We have a wonderful time doing it, and we very much enjoy making the podcast.
We do, and
we have to justify that.
Of course, that doesn't mean that you'll enjoy it, but
we have fun.
We enjoy it, and we hope that you'll enjoy it as well.
So go check that out. Check out everything else that we have available: Instagram, the website, and the Spreadshirt Shop, which is available on the YouTube page now. You can find all the stuff there if you want a neat cup like this,
an Old Warlock
or
cup,
cool hoodie like
yes,
this one with the Old Warlock logo, and all kinds of other clothing that you might need.
Christmas will be here soon.
Christmas is coming for that special little warlock in your life. Swing by and get something.
I'm sorry about that. I'm Jim from the Old Warlock.
I'm Alex.
Keep your sword on free.
Bye bye.